Hey guys, welcome back to another Geek Time and another video on how we built my Buzz Lightyear cosplay. Apologies for the 2-week break, but we are back, and this week we will show you the biggest and most time-consuming part of the build, which was the chest and jetpack section of Buzz. As we said last time, we did this as a joint venture with Century 21 Props and Replicas. Their links will be in the description below, so make sure you check them out. None of us have taken on a big build like this before. We were relatively new to cosplay making, let alone foam craft, but many people have asked how I made the costume, so here it is. Bit of a disclaimer, this is not a tutorial video, but more of a documentation of how we made the costume, but we will be remaking the costume in future and we'll be doing more of a tutorial, but still a how-to video for that. Also, we had no blueprints of plans how to make this, just reference images of the character. A few years later, I found my Buzz Lightyear toy in the attic, which would have been very useful, but we defo be using that for reference during the rebuild. But let's get on with it. Firstly, before even starting the Buzz build, we made a duct tape mannequin of my torso to try and help with sizing. Then using parcel paper, planned out a quarter of what it would look like for a template before moving on to foam. The template was applied to a sheet of EVA foam, the correct way I may add, thanks to Century 21, pinning and drawing the outline to the back of the EVA foam. We then traced around 3 more times to get 4 pieces. In hindsight, we should have used the template for all pieces, but hey ho, let's move on. All 4 pieces were glued together using contact adhesive. Have a look back at our first video for tips on using that. Applying more contact adhesive to the edges that will then create the sides, but recommend using a heat gun first to shape the pieces in advance before gluing roughly to where you want it. Also, would recommend using lollipop sticks instead of a brush, as the glue would kill the brush. And then this gives us a nice base to work from for the upper body parts. So we could now put some more parcel paper on this new base and start planning some of the finer details. The plans were then cut out and applied to more EVA foam and pinned down and drawn upon. But looks like we went back to pinning on the wrong side. Oh well, and also you'll notice that we used different colors. You don't have to do this as you'll be painting over it later, but we found it easier to visualize the different sections and colors on the suit. So even though we cut out the template in half, we still cut out the front piece all in one. Oh, also inside we used some scrap spongy foam to help make it sit right and to support my shoulders. We fastened the front pieces with more contact adhesive and pinned into place, which again, don't recommend, as I've said many times. Wait for the glue to dry a bit more before sticking down, as it sticks right away and won't need pinning down. This will help prevent holes in your foam. Also, you notice we then shaped and applied a section to the shoulders using more EVA foam. And then for the helmet mounts, we used the cardboard tubes from inside duct tape and spray can lids, waste not, want not. We filled the seams with hot glue, and also the cardboard tube and spray paint lids were glued with hot glue. I would have used a technique where you wet the finger and push down and drag the glue with your wet finger to make it more like a seal and smoother too. But this can burn too, so make sure you keep wetting your finger. Then adding some strips of EVA on top to get more molding shape of the chest piece. Glued it down the usual way and then shaped it with a knife and files. More strips were added around the center, gluing it in the same way, and then putting some plumbing tape as a trial to see what it looks like. This would bite us later when painting, as when the adhesive of the tape started to come away, it would pull the paint with it. And me testing out the fit and seemed all okay whilst I looked into the distance to dream of being a space ranger. So as you can see, more plumbing tape was applied and the strips were shaped more. Purple strips were added to the sides with thinner EVA foam, and we did look at putting extensions on the sides, but later decided it didn't look right. Finally, some plastic piping bits were added to finish off the helmet mount parts. This was applied with hot glue. More thinner EVA was added inside the center section using the underside of the EVA, and also a head support piece at the back. These were hot glued into place. Started to put more detail in for the 3 buttons using a car paint chip repair kit lid. Was perfect to score around for the shape, and again using a spray paint lid for the wing deploy button to score around it. These were scored around using a Dremel, and then the heat gun widened the gaps. The rest of the wing deploy section was shaped with a Dremel. Silicone was then used to fill the gaps, but we don't recommend using this. It is very difficult for paint to take to it and stick. We recommend using some decorated chalk. It is easier to use and can be sanded and painted over. It's not looking too bad for no plans at all, so we began the painting stage. Heat sealing first. As you can see the scorch marks. We used a whole can of white plasti dip, then spraying some dark grey for the corners to have shadows and the neck pieces, but we found the neck pieces were too dark of a grey, so we would repaint lighter later. As you can see, I'm very happy that I'm almost Buzz Lightyear, and I'm also testing out the hood too, but we'll talk about that next week. You'll also notice we finished painting the rest of the white gloss spray and lime green spray paint, and deep purple acrylic paint was added by hand as well as the colours on the buttons. You can really see the green popping in this picture here, but also can see a little extra bit on the back, so I think it's time to move on to the jetpack. So both the back and the chest were being worked on back and forth, but for this video I decided to separate them. Primarily the jetpack is one piece of furniture foam, like what you get in garden furniture seating cushions. It was drawn on to plan out what each part would look like and what to build up. A plastic tube was used for the circle part in the center. All this was glued in the same way of either contact adhesive or hot glue. Green EVA then added to help create the shape and more detail. Each piece was handmade separately and not using a template and mirrored over, so this would be a little bit unsymmetrical. More EVA added to the top piece again to bring in the shape of the jetpack with little details. And finally, the last bits of EVA were added to finish off the overall shape. Thinner EVA was used for the black sections, and a different disc was added using hot glue and EVA foam, but this would change another time again. It was then attached to the main chest piece with cable ties, contact adhesive and hot glue to make sure it was not going anywhere. All the seams then filled in with silicone, and this is where I had the main issues with the paint flaking off, as lots of sections are covered in it. As you can see, another foam piece was added to the top to cover the cable ties. Also, it was then covered in Mod Podge to seal the foam before painting. Audio cables then added before painting too, as we're going to attach 2 speakers to be able to play some music and buzz phrases. When we redo the suit, these speakers will be inside the chest. It was painted in the usual manner, so not going to show you those, but this is what it looks like. And those faces in the background are quite haunting. To the sides, more foam was added and a foam pipe insulator, which was then hand painted to represent the wings. The paint was then sealed with some clear spray varnish to give that lovely shiny look. Little tops were added to the top of the wings from half the cap of a disinfectant bottle. The Space Ranger sticker was then added along with a few other stickers on the chest and jetpack, sealed on with clear varnish spray. Here's the finished rear details and stickers, and then to the front with the finished sealing and stickers. Then the speakers were applied to do this.
Buzz Lightyear to Star Command. Come in, Star Command. To infinity and beyond. I am Buzz Lightyear. I come in peace. When the road looks rough ahead.
Black material was added to the sides to block off the insides. In the next build, the foam will be higher and less of this material will be used. And the final circle bit on the back made up of different bits and bobs. So that is it for the chest and jetpack. This was documented far more, as it was the longest bit to work on due to all the details and figuring it out too. So we have almost shown all the bits of our Buzz Lightyear build. Next week we will be looking at the final bits, which are the lower parts, thighs, head and midsection. This costume has been to conventions 3 times and I really would like to wear it more, but it does need an overhaul, so maybe 2021 or 2022 would be the next appearance. Thanks for watching. If you would like to hit that subscribe button, that would be great. And if you'd like to support us, then you can tip us on the link that is displayed on the screen and also on the description. all money tipped will go towards new equipment and software to make our videos better for you. Thanks everyone for all your support, it means the world to us, and I look forward to chatting to you guys in the comments. But that is it for this week, so until next time.